right, thank you guys for coming. And I actually want to talk about the Vault, what I call the Vault advantage, and some of the lessons that we have learned at Enzyme working with a project like you guys, especially LST and LRT projects. Some of the lessons are quite obvious, and some are less obvious, a bit more like insightful. So let's go and see. In the past 18 months, especially, like the rise of liquid staking and restaking has been massive. Now more like than 25% of the total Ethereum supply in staking or restaking. This has important consequences. Number one, actually a lot of great consequences. There's a lot more innovation, a lot more diversity, so there's new opportunities, also less concentration, less systemic risk in general, which is very welcome. So a lot of new options in general, like for investors, which is awesome. But there's also like negative consequences to this, which is there's so much more complexity, so much more effort, and in order to actually keep up with all these opportunities, people are feeling like this fatigue, all these point systems and tokens, expecting airdrops. So there's a constant monitoring and constant switching between one thing and the next. So that's, I think it's important to realize that all this added complexity and effort that people have to go through leads to having users that become necessarily more and more hyper-specialized, right? So you need to be highly intelligent, highly smart to actually go through all these hoops. And so the problem is like there's just not so many people like that. There's just not many people that are willing or skillful enough to go through so many options. So, and these guys are so smart in general that it's very hard to retain them because they just go from one opportunity to the next. So for protocols in general, it's very difficult to grow because there's only so many people. We kind of maxed out the number of people who actually can take these opportunities. Now, whenever I'm confronted with this type of situation, I always go back to an interview that I saw some time ago. I like to call it the Jeff Bezos rule, because he was like in this interview, which you can find online on YouTube. He was asked, "Hey Jeff, how do you actually at Amazon? How do you succeed in an environment which changes so fast and so often, which actually can apply to crypto and DeFi in general?" And his answer was quite brilliant because he says, "Well, instead of getting dragged by things that change all the time, what we do as Amazon is we focus on stuff that actually never changes." Which actually I thought it was very, very insightful. In his case, what never changes at Amazon is faster delivery and cheaper prices, because that's stuff that always, like people will always want faster delivery and cheaper prices. So what can we learn from this Jeff Bezos rule? I guess what we can learn is that in this space, we actually have to focus on first principle, timeless needs that are always going to be there for every user. And so if I think about like all these needs and what they could be, well, number one, people want to have solutions that are secure, that are tested, and they want to have the maximum possible results with the minimum effort, ideally no effort, and also stuff that is easy to understand, right? Because it's like people want to see through like the solutions, see what they are, to be able to digest them and to be able to take decisions. Now, all kind of road leads to Rome, and for me, Rome is one-click vaults with added visibility, end-to-end visibility, which sometimes is missing. And I'm going to go through this point in a second. Now, these solutions, one-click vaults with visibility, have very, very obvious advantages in my head. Number one, they can address a much, much bigger market. Because if we only create solution for active farmers who are actually capable of jumping through 10 plus transactions to get to where they want, like the size of the market is that little circle in the middle. Now, if we create like a one-click solution that abstracts all the complexity, now all of a sudden we create something for passive or like lazy investors, and this market is so much bigger because like that can address even Web 2 people eventually. The second advantage that I think is very important to underline is higher revenues. I mean, we saw this in also other cases like EtherFi, for example. Like if you have no vault, you can only basically focus on like lower margin, which are, by the way, as you guys know very well, always like more and more under pressure because they get commoditized. And so the focus there is only on cost optimization. Whereas if we create something which is much simpler with a much bigger addressable market, we start focusing on added value and differentiation, which obviously creates the ability to charge premium fees. And we saw that, like the ability, for example, to charge 1% plus on AUM, which is actually substantially higher than the typical industry standards for like staking, which is around 10% of the staking rewards. So you can actually generate many more revenues per unit of AUM or TVL. So that's, I think, is a very, very important takeaway. The third one is higher conversion. In this case, I want to go back to the visibility point, because many times I see vaults in DeFi which are actually very much black boxes. So you see these front ends, one-click deposit, but yes, but like what is actually in this vault? It shouldn't like users shouldn't have like a PhD in blockchain analytics or analysis or Etherscan analysis to be able to understand what the hell is going on into this vault. They should have ability to have the convenience of a one-click deposit, but also the transparency to see what's inside those vaults. Now, I want to stick to that image for a second because there's a fourth advantage, which is also quite interesting. Once you have a vault that actually can deploy liquidity on different venues, for example, here I have Balancer, Curve, and Uniswap as example. Instead of asking users to come and deploy liquidity on all these different protocols, you can give them one simple solution, one simple access point, and from there you can orchestrate the liquidity so much more conveniently and so much more easy. And that, by the way, has the added advantage of making the LSTs or the new LRTs much more eligible or easily eligible for things like listing on Aave as collateral, listing on Pendle, or getting price oracles from from providers like Chainlink or Redstone. So those are all like secondary advantages that come from this liquidity orchestration. Now, with the wave, especially like now that we start to see like in the past week that we're approaching a new, ideally, hopefully a new bull market, we're going to have a wave of users from Web 2. Those users are not going to be like the smart like farmers that we've been used to in the past year and a half or two. So these guys, it actually might make sense to offer a vault, a one-click vault to these guys, just in case it catches on, just to paraphrase one of the most famous sentences in crypto. Now, once we understand and agree overall that like these solutions are useful and abstracting complexity and creating this type of products is actually a good idea. Now, the second question that a project should ask themselves is like, should I actually make this, or like should I actually create it in-house, or should I buy it? And now, for me, this is an absolute no-brainer. I mean, if we look at the comparison, there's absolutely there's nothing to debate really. If somebody tries to make these type of solutions in-house, the time to market is much longer, the development and audit costs are much higher, and then there's a lot of distractions that go into this instead of focusing on the core value proposition. So the other option is you can launch anytime, like tomorrow. You can do it like without any development or additional audit cost, and especially like there's zero distraction, so you can really stick to what you're building best. All right, so many people come to me and say, hey, Luca, I love this idea. I want to do a vault. I want to do a product that I can launch for my community, but what shall I create? Like, what kind of product shall I create? And so there's actually not one size that fits all, unfortunately. And I would say like every project, that have their different solution, or they have different ideas. So I guess the best thing that I can do for you guys is to show you some examples of things that have been done or are being done today from this project that you see right here. And this might serve you as an inspiration or like maybe as an advice on what could be done. Enzyme is actually quite a Swiss knife in general, like as a sort of general concept. So there's so flexible and so much versatility that in fact there's so many. It's very very hard to focus on one single solution. We have a project like Stater, for example, which is doing an automated leverage loop on their LST ETHX with the objective of doubling the APY for the user. So that's one example of a solution for a vault. Nexus Mutual doing something different. They wanted to do like a bit of a native staking through Kiln and Chorus One, and also liquid restaking through EtherFi. So this is all together combined in one single vault. Diva ran last year. They bootstrap liquidity TVL for their upcoming launch. So way before they launched, they started to collect TVL. So that was ready from, basically this is supposed to be ready from day one to be deployed. It was actually pretty successful. Like it raised like more than 50 million from more than 1,000 users. So this is actually an example of how a project can start collecting TVL before they even go live. And Swell instead came with a completely different idea. They said, we want to create a vault that protects the peg of our LST, Sweeth, because their withdrawals were not enabled yet. So they actually did this, and they collected, I think, around 25 million, which was well enough to protect their peg and actually create a successful solution. Yieldnest, again, is doing something, again, very different. In this case, they build a vault for institutional allocators around their YN ETH LRT. So again, you see there's so many different things. And I think like last one I have is Renzo, which in these guys are working with Re7 as a curator. And in this case, they are providing strategic liquidity to UniV3 on their Easy ETH LRT. So you see there's so many things that are being done, and it's actually very hard to say, okay, this is one solution. There's actually many solutions, and there could be even more. So it really depends on the specific needs. Last one I forgot to mention, this is also interesting. DLCBTC, which is one of the projects that is building like, these like native solutions to bridge between like Bitcoin and the Ethereum ecosystem. In this case, they have a solution which is one click from the Bitcoin network, deposit BTC in a non-custodial solution that then gets bridged and minted into an Enzyme vault to earn yield on that BTC and then potentially go back to the Bitcoin network natively. So these are all very interesting use cases, and these are examples of things that could be done in Enzyme. And obviously, it's also up to the creativity of project. We are always discussing with projects like you guys, and say, hey, what can we do? Is this possible? Is it not possible? Sometimes it is. Sometimes we have to develop things on top as custom solution, but there's always an interesting discussion. As TLDR, I wanna leave you with 3 lessons learned and 3 actionable recommendations. So 3 lessons learned is that insisting on educating users to do complex DeFi does not really work. A better idea is to stick to first principle and actually like do things that actually always worked and will always work. And create one-click vaults as product is the best way to do that without any black boxes. And the actionable recommendation is to define your own vault strategy, because you have to understand, you have to come up with what you want to optimize for. Think through like the multiple solution that you could provide. And also, last but not least, obviously, partner up with vault experts that will save you a lot of time, a lot of headaches, and definitely a ton of money. So speaking of experts, we've been building vaults since 2017. We are secured by some of the, the chain security, some of the best in the business, and we're also like connected with some distribution platform like Swissborg and OKX. So last one, like you have my contact details here. We're 3 people around here, so I'd love to discuss with you guys and see how you can launch your one-click vault. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.